Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Welcome in, everyone. Today, we're setting off on a journey through the absolute strangest, most brilliant, and darkest corners of human history. We are going to look at exactly how humanity has behaved across the centuries. And let me tell you, it is quite the spectrum.
To kick things off, I want to pose this rather provocative question to you all. What do reverse psychology potatoes, an inflatable army, and the loudest sound on Earth actually have in common? Well, the answer is that they all prove history isn't just some dry list of dates and facts. It is a deeply human spectrum of utter absurdity, astonishing ingenuity, and profound tragedy.
So, here is our roadmap for how we're going to structure all this incredible data today. First, history's most absurd moments. Second, bizarre tactics and alliances. Third, paradoxes of powerful figures. Fourth, the darkest human chapters. And finally, what we left behind.
All right, Section 1. History's most absurd moments. The hilarious and bizarre side of the past.
You know, sometimes the past reads exactly like a comedy script. Take France in the 1780s, for example. The French people were starving, yet they utterly refused to eat potatoes. For hundreds of years, they genuinely believed potatoes caused deadly illnesses. The French parliament even officially banned them. So a man commissioned by the king used an absolutely brilliant reverse psychology tactic. Step 1, he planted potatoes on a 2-acre plot. Step 2, he posted armed guards all around it, which obviously made the locals think something incredibly valuable was growing there. And Step 3, he secretly instructed those guards to accept bribes and let the locals steal the crop. The working class thought they were stealing this rare luxury item, and just like that, the superfood became a massive hit.
And this brilliantly illustrates that even history's most serious figures had deeply eccentric personal lives. I mean, you have Napoleon, who was gifted a war llama during his Egyptian campaign and actually took it with him to battles in Italy. Then there's the master magician Harry Houdini, who had a pet mongoose named Bobby that supposedly attacked fake money. And you literally cannot forget the 6th U.S. President John Quincy Adams, who kept a pet alligator in the White House bathroom. Talk about a wild surprise for guests who just needed to use the facilities, right?
Speaking of Napoleon, let's contrast his massive French empire with his exile empire on the tiny Italian island of Elba. So the coalition struck a deal allowing him to remain an emperor, but only of this tiny rock. And Napoleon took this hilariously seriously. He redesigned the flag, he built a hospital, and he formed an army consisting of 600 men, 100 horses, and a singular brick. And somehow, he used that tiny force to sail back to France, where the opposing French army liked him so much they just let him march right into Paris and reinstate himself without firing a single shot. No way, right?
Moving on to Section 2. Bizarre tactics and alliances. When war gets weird.
Desperate times really force the most unconventional strategies, especially when you look at World War I trench warfare. Imagine trying to cross a street while a sniper holds you down. You can't just call in an airstrike, that's taxpayer money. So soldiers used this brilliant, systematic counter tactic. First, bait the sniper by poking a dummy helmet on a stick over the trench. Second, once you know the general direction, use a small mirror on a stick to spot the exact muzzle flash. Third, coordinated distraction for just half a second, which gives your own sharpshooter the perfect window to take the enemy down. Just incredible ingenuity under pressure.
That same spirit of deception scaled way up in World War II with Operation Fortitude. This was an entirely fake army built in southern England to trick the Axis powers. We're talking inflatable tanks, rubber boats, wooden planes, and literal straw soldiers. Up close, it was totally absurd, but to German reconnaissance planes taking pictures from the sky, it looked incredibly convincing. They broadcasted thousands of fake radio orders too. It worked so well that even after the real D-Day invasion happened at Normandy, Hitler believed it was just a diversion and refused to move his main troops for almost 2 months. And as World War II came to a chaotic close, the alliances got incredibly bizarre. In one event, you had the Americans and German defectors teaming up in a firefight against the SS. Why? To rescue a secret breeding program of perfectly white Nazi horses right before starving Soviet troops could eat them. In another event, the Battle of Kassel Itter, a Wehrmacht commander teamed up with American troops and the French prisoners they were guarding to fight off 200 SS soldiers, and the only reason they won was because a literal tennis player jumped the wall, ran through the woods, and led the Allied reinforcements back to the castle. You can't make this up.
Okay, Section 3. Paradoxes of powerful figures. The contradictions of leadership.
History's most notable and often most terrifying leaders left behind some highly contradictory legacies. Let's start with World War I.
Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany famously said, "If my grandmother had been alive, she would have never allowed it to happen." The sheer irony here is that World War I was essentially a massive, bloody family argument. The leaders of Germany, England, and Russia were all first cousins. They were all grandchildren of Queen Victoria. They grew up vacationing together. King George and Tsar Nicholas looked so identical they used to swap clothes to mess with their royal courts. Yet, they ended up destroying Europe. The historical record also shows incredibly stark contradictions. Looking at the data, Genghis Khan was responsible for roughly 40 million deaths, which was 10% of the global population at the time. Yet, he also established the first widespread religious freedom, granting tax exemptions to Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, and Jews. Similarly, Joseph Stalin oversaw a regime responsible for millions of deaths. Yet under his rule, the Soviet Union experienced one of the fastest literacy booms in human history, transitioning a population of mostly illiterate peasants into a nation where nearly everyone could read. Now, the sources note these policies were implemented strictly for tactical control and state propaganda, but the paradox of these actions remains a fascinating historical reality to observe.
So the crucial takeaway here is that power often attracts danger, completely regardless of the leader's policies. In fact, being the US president is one of the deadliest jobs in history. Out of 46 presidents, 4 have been assassinated: Lincoln, Garfield, McKinley, and JFK. That is a massive 8.7% death rate just for holding the office.
But when it comes to individuals wielding deadly power, a staggering 17 million lives were taken by Timur the Great. To put that into perspective, that was 5% of the entire world population at the time. A general who never lost a single battle in 35 years, Timur literally built pyramids out of human skulls. If a city surrendered after he promised no blood would be spilled, he would keep his word by simply burying the entire garrison alive instead.
Which brings us to Section 4, the darkest human chapters, facing the unfathomable.
When we look directly at the grim realities of our past, the scale is just staggering. In 1937, during the Nanking Massacre, approximately 300,000 people were killed in just 6 weeks. Mathematically, that equates to 8,300 deaths every single day, alongside the destruction of 1/3 of the city. Later in the 20th century, we see Pol Pot's regime in Cambodia. By forcibly evacuating cities and sending citizens to rural agricultural labor camps, the regime's ideological purge resulted in over 1 million Cambodian deaths in just 4 years, wiping out more than 25% of the nation's entire population.
The suddenness of historical tragedy is perhaps best captured by this timeline of Hiroshima. 60 seconds before the detonation, an old couple is finishing breakfast. Children are walking to school on a beautiful day. 40 seconds, a faint engine hum drifts over the city. 20 seconds, a single B-29 bomber is spotted, but there is no alarm. 10 seconds, a dark speck drops from the plane. 1 second, a blinding light claims the lives of 140,000 citizens. A normal morning, evaporated in a single second.
That level of sudden, catastrophic power is rare in human hands, but nature has its own devastating forces. 310 is the estimated decibel level of the 1883 Krakatoa volcanic eruption.
To really understand why that is so terrifying, we have to look at the actual speed limit of sound on Earth, which is 194 decibels. Anything louder than that stops being mere noise and becomes a physical, deadly shockwave. For context, a jet engine is about 140 decibels. Because sound grows exponentially, Krakatoa at 310 decibels wasn't just twice as loud, it was trillions of times more powerful. It shattered the eardrums of sailors 40 miles away. It turned into a physical shockwave that circled the entire globe 7 times over 5 days. If you were on the island, you wouldn't have even heard it. The pressure wave would have liquidated your internal organs before the sound even reached your brain.
Finally, Section 5. What we left behind. The fragility of human progress.
Coming out of all that sheer destruction, we kind of have to reflect on our own fragility. The Library of Alexandria housed irreplaceable scrolls and knowledge from entirely forgotten civilizations. It held wisdom much older than the society that built it, yet it was burned down, with most sources attributing the destruction to Julius Caesar and his army during their siege. It shows that we are just as capable of burning down 2,500-year-old wisdom as we are of creating brilliant inventions.
Which brings us to the ultimate question I want to leave you with today. If we are a species capable of creating inflatable armies to save the world, capable of incredible survival, yet also capable of burning down our greatest libraries and inflicting unfathomable tragedies upon each other, what will be our ultimate legacy?
Thank you so much for exploring this explainer with me today. I really hope it sparked your curiosity to look a bit deeper into the amazing, absurd, and complex history we all share. Keep learning, and I'll see you in the next one.